It's that time once again where I break down some more Gundam stuff for you. What, are views down? Oh well. This time we're probably saying more about my own aesthetic than anything else, but let's get some ground rules out of the way first. As the title of the episode indicates, this is about the top 10 ugliest Gundam mobile suits. So, as always, this is my list, and I'm sure yours will be different. Second rule, nothing from G Gundam. I dunk on that show enough as is. And if I put G Gundam in there, we'll just be here all fucking week. At any rate, third rule is that, of course, they have to be from an anime. So the S Gundam is mercifully spared. Holy mother of Beltochka's children, that thing is ugly. And finally, this is Gundam suits only. It has to be called a Gundam specifically, and not just be in a Gundam series. If I look at top ugly grunt suits, this would be a top 50 list instead of a top 10. And for those of you concerned, there will be nothing in here from Gundam Build Fighters. That one is deserving of its own video. Watch this space for more details, you dig? So what makes a Gundam suit ugly to my sensibilities? Well, I do like my robots to look a certain way. Clearly defined head and shoulders, not too many spikes or weird bibs and bobs, some sort of defined silhouette, hopefully no cankles. Nothing overly goofy or gimmicky to go with it. Transforming mobile suits are too gimmicky for my taste, and it ends up causing additional kibble on the suit design to just make it flip over and turn around or whatever. Oh, and for those of you who don't know, kibble is a term that I pulled from Transformers toys, where they're pieces of a character's alternate mode which hang out or stick in their robot form. So, for example, you get like shell formers in certain old Transformers toys, where it's just a robot that is in a shell with these two big wings of like a car or an animal of some sort on it. There are certain transforming mobile suits that have a bunch of kibble on them in that same way. So as far as great suits, you know how I operate. There's a whole top 10 list for that. I think the Gundam Mark II is a pretty good starting point and shouldn't go much further beyond an Epion or a V2 Buster as far as kit is concerned. I don't know, maybe I have some very specific taste. Maybe I just know what I like, but at any rate, let's get to the list. Number 10. The G-Self. I shouldn't be too hard on the G-Self, it just wants Senpai to notice it. Not that it's all that bad, I will say, which is why it's at the top of the list and not in the number 1 slot. I think the Gundams from G-Reco get a bad rap because they've got utter garbage names, and that show is a little but they're pretty okay if you're willing to give a little bit. However, the G-Self has these big dumb googly eyes, and the head fins are pointing forward like a hat rack gone wrong. Combined with a lot of extra flashing lights and an overly rounded shape, the G-Self looks like someone's modern redesign of the original Gundam. Too much work, not enough charm. I was going to put the G-Lucifer on this list before I realized that it's not a Gundam with fin funnels, it's two fin funnels with a Gundam attached to it. So, the G-Self takes the day because I hate it just a little bit more. Number 9. Easy 8. What general features make a Gundam recognizable? The V-fin, the coloration, the whole oeuvre, the white and the blue, that sort of thing. Well, what if we take it all away and make it a bland college dorm cream color? Well, then you'd have the Extra 08, a Gundam with protective wrestling gear on its head and a big fat comms aerial. Now, don't get me wrong, it makes sense in the situation, given that the Easy 8 is a refitted Gundam ground type that had to be smacked together in a hurry, but that paint job, yeesh. Why on earth did they put that awful coat of paint on it? They're fighting in the jungle. Why not put some sort of camo pattern on it, or at least break up the gigantic off-white target that's walking through the jungle or the ruined cities? I guess the powers that be are trying to get Shiro, the pilot, turned into dog food, so it makes a bit of sense, but it looks more like an upgraded Patlabor than a proper Gundam. Number 8. The Egeus. Transforming suits are going to get stick from me no matter how good they are, as an obnoxious holdover from the Super Robot era. The biggest issue I have with transforming mobile suits is that most of the design of the unit is given over to the transforming parts, which drags down the design terribly. Now, some have more or less kibble to them, but case in point, the Egeus. It's covered in big pointy bits on its feet and its shoulders and on its head. It's also almost red, but it's only broken up by little itty-bitty spots of black. The suit also turns into a giant claw that can blast the stuffing out of mobile suits and battleships alike, but it looks terrible in motion. Regardless of how it performs and what it may do in the series, the Egeus is one of the biggest offenders of what I hate in transforming mobile suits. Until we get to the next one. Number 7. Double Zeta. Mobile Suit Gundam Double Zeta, the show, gets a bad rap, and I'm not here to defend how good or bad the show may be, but I do not like the whole thing they've got going. Like I've said a million times, I don't care for gimmicky transforming suits, but mercifully, those don't end up usually being Gundam-type suits in the UC timeline. Double Zeta here is the difference, of course. Everything about this unit is over-designed and overloaded. The head beam cannon, the 2 oversized beam sabers, which are also beam cannons. It turns into a G-Fortress, and it looks more like a cruise missile than a fighter. And it gets worse. The upgrades, if you could call them that, fix some serious issues, but by the time we get to the full armor Double Zeta Gundam, its ultimate version, it looks cartoonish. And considering this show's theme song, that just won't do. It's got an itty-bitty head, shoulders almost as wide as it is tall, and it looks like a bodybuilder in the 80s. As important as the things that happened in the latter part of Double Zeta would be for setting up the finale of the first arc of the UC, the main player is kind of a mess. And take it from Double Zeta, never skip leg day. Number 6. Gundam Unicorn. Boring, 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 boring. Oh, it's so powerful. Oh, it's good for fighting new types. Oh, look at it transforms. Blech. This suit is the Roman Reigns of Gundams. It gets a big push for being super powerful, but looks like something they put right in the show after pulling it off the drawing board. This is the same problem of the EZ-8, that it's a big white target, but it also just has no personality. The big guns, the extra kibble, the whole shebang completely fails to be anything remotely interesting. Sure, it cracks open to at least look like a Gundam, but the glowing bits are this perfect shade to contrast very poorly with the pure white that just leaves this mess of a Gundam in desperate need of a color correction. Number 5. Strong Gundam. This one gets a double billing because its upgrade sucks just as bad as its original. Gundam X's Strong Gundam and its Hermit Crab upgrade get the ignominious fate of being on this list. The original version of this looks like an obnoxious gym bro with a washed-out color scheme. An extra-large backpack holds 2 extending crab claws, like a big mobile armor, which it does transform into, so it's already on my shit list. And when they upgrade it, and I use that loosely, the backpack goes from big to huge, and the actual mobile suit profile is slimmed down significantly. It's kind of like the huge backpack systems that the Freedom and Justice Gundams would get in Seed Destiny, but this thing just looks clunky and vile, attached to an okay if bottom-heavy mobile suit. The disappointment is real, but its partner suit makes up for some of its sins, despite being an Epion knockoff, so I guess it's all in balance. Number 4. Rios Gundam. Oh man, this is just the Egeus dialed up to 1,000, which, yes, that makes it that much worse. The blades, the shoulder kibble, the knees. Where's this streamlined look the Gundams from 00 usually had going for them? Somewhere in the bin, I suppose. It's got a tiny little backpack, huge forearms, no real sense to go along with it. It's orange, but at least the color scheme is broken up with some lighter white and yellow parts. But that doesn't save it from transforming into a giant lawn dart. Its transform mode looks much the same as the Egeus and the Double Zeta do, without the panache of either, which brings it to number 4. Number 3. Biological CPU series. Here's a 3-in-1 because they're all so fucking awful that I can't decide which one I hate the most. The Forbidden, the Raider, and the Calamity Gundams are also astonishingly ugly and poorly designed that I can't just pick one. So here's the short version. The Forbidden Gundam is the least awful of the bunch. The machine itself isn't that bad, but the kibble that makes up its big backpack is just infuriating. All it does is flop over on its head and makes it look like a dumb hat. The Calamity sports massive, overlong beam cannons on its shoulders, and has shoulder plating gone wrong. The huge shield with the extra kit slapped into it doesn't help, but the weird out-of-place backpack is the biggest problem, making it look like a Gunpla kit bash in its early stages. The Raider is just a mess. It's got a huge backpack, comical shoulder pads, and it's all in the service of transforming into a crappy-looking bird. Everything the Egeus and Rios do wrong, the Raider does worse. Also, it has my number 1 cardinal sin, a mouth-mounted beam cannon. Next, please, for the love of God. Number 2. Kumaris Gundam. Ah, no, I lied. Bring back the kit bashes, please. A late arrival from IBO skyrockets to the top of the list. It's big, it's purple, and it's got a head like a donger and a Kibble butt that won't quit. The Kumaris is kind of amazing. In a show with so few Gundam suits, this was the one that they came up with. The upgrade is even more astonishing. It gets this massive badonk behind it with a heroin chic for the rest of the body, and then it turns into a centaur. Not since the Death Army from G Gundam have we looked at something this bold-facedly ridiculous. If this was a top 10 stupidest Gundam suits, this would be number 1, but I have to say I dislike the last one a whole hell of a lot more than the poor Kumaris. Number 1. GP02A. Alright kids, let's take it home. Get a load of this fat bloke waddling around like he owns the place. Huge shoulders, huge calves, huge shield, and alright, the rest of it is in there somewhere. Why do I find it so ugly? Well, it's not fucking finished to start with. The face is just a mess, the torso and arms are an afterthought, and it is a literal walking war crime. It's a weird, dirty tan color, which really just overwhelms the whole bot. The problem with bringing critique to it is that it's just doing every damn thing wrong in the book. It's bulky and skinny all at once, it is ugly in aspect and in its purpose as a mobile nuclear missile platform. It is a goddamn mess and somehow manages to stay on its feet because it has an ace at the sticks. Gato is just lucky they remembered to put the engine in before he stole it. Anime series come and go, but ugly mobile suits are forever. Sadly. Even the jankiest Gundam suits end up with model kits. And perhaps this video says more about my own design sensibilities and what a mobile suit design done by me would look like. But hopefully, overall, this is amused enough to share around or has infuriated you enough to leave comments down below. And as always, this is Professor Otaku, the greatest American anime critic, signing off.